Ever since the Wrath of the Waste set has come into the game, it's become pretty clear what the quote-unquote best Barbarian build is for Greater Rifting. You're going to use the Wrath of the Waste set, the 6-piece bonus, along with the 4-piece bonus from the Immortal King set. So it's all become pretty clear what gear you need. You need the IK weapon and the IK belt. Those are must-haves to have the necessary pieces, and then everything else you fill out with either Wrath of the Wastes or Immortal Kings, depending on how well your gear rolled. Other than that, it's Ring of Royal Grandeur, double unity with your follower. Amulet can change, but generally either physical or skill damage or strength, crit damage, crit chance socket. Reaper's Wraps are pretty good as well. So that's all well and good, and we know what this build does, but for those who haven't yet seen it, it's pretty straightforward. The Wrath of the Waste set helps out your Whirlwind, and Rend as well, which has always seemed a bit random, but it's the way it is. You get 40% damage reduction during Whirlwind, and when you're Whirlwinding, you get the Dust Devil's Rune, and it increases 2500% weapon damage. So it's a lot of damage, really nice. And Immortal King gives you Call the Ancients Last Until They Die, and the 4-set bonus essentially allows you to have permanent Wrath of the Berserker, which is fantastic. The skill build, again, pretty straightforward here. I'm not going to spend too much time going over it because that's not really the point of this video. This is just to establish a starting point. This is right now the general consensus best build for higher greater rifts. But that's not what we're here for. We want to know, how do we take this build, which any barb who's been playing for a while now is probably going to have, and if you're not, you're working on it. How do we take this build and transition it into a really effective speed farming build? That's what we want to know, because a lot of speed farming builds will have you do all sorts of crazy stuff. I've seen a bunch of different videos, and there's a bunch of different gear that you need, and it's stuff that you never would have used otherwise. So we want to know, with as few changes as possible, how do we take our Greater Rift build, which is not a speed farming build, and turn it into a speed farming build for just farming regular Nephilim Rifts, because that's the quickest way that you're going to get your blood shards. So, how do we want to do that? Everything here is going to stay almost exactly the same. Because I said I want to make as few changes as possible, so I'm changing exactly 2 things. 1, Superstition's not necessary when we're just farming T6. We're not going to be taking that much damage. I'm going to change that for Unforgiving, so that instead of losing Fury, we gain 2 Fury every second. And this is just to make sure that we can Whirlwind as much as possible. Secondly, we use Rend because it's good for damage over time when we're trying to clear Greater Rifts. Not necessary for Nephilim Rifts. So we're going to change Rend out for Sprint, and you have 2 options here, because again, this is for move speed. You can go for Marathon, which gives you more of a speed bonus and an extra second on it. Personally, I like going for Run Like the Wind. It keeps it at 3 seconds, but you just get more tornadoes, because that's what this build is about, and it's just some more damage, so we're going to go there. And that's it. Everything else can stay. Are there ways to do it that might make it a little faster? Maybe, but we don't need to, because this build is going to be plenty fast. So, the next changes that we need to make. Right now, zoom out here. Right now, we're using diamonds here because you need the survivability in high-level greater rifts. We don't need that. We want damage. So we're going to take out diamonds and put in rubies for strength. Get that damage up there. And then the next thing, the Esoteric Alteration Gem, amazing for higher level greater rifts. It's a ton of damage reduction. It's absolutely fantastic. We don't need it here. We want damage and we want speed. So instead of the Esoteric Alteration, we're going to go to Wreath of Lightning, dealing AoE damage and giving us increased move speed whenever it's active. So there we go. And that's it. Or is it? Because the last thing, and what's really going to help our speed, is we're going to take off the IK Boulder Breaker. We are going to lose that 4-piece bonus, but that's okay because we don't need that right now. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to equip the Bulkathos weapons. So what those do, it's a 2-piece bonus. A, we get more Fury Generation, which is fantastic. And B, we get 30% increased attack speed and move speed while we're Whirlwinding, which helps on multiple fronts because A, more move speed means you're moving through the rift more quickly, and B, more attack speed means more tornadoes. So after that, I was just kidding last time, but that really is it. Those are all the changes we're going to make. As you can see, almost everything stays the same. The only thing you can do if you want is switch out the life percent gem for something like just bonus experience. which can help because, again, you don't need high survivability in Rifts, so you might as well get some more experience, get those Paragon levels up. But yeah, there's not a lot of changes to be made. We only changed 2 things in the skills. We changed very little in the gear. And in doing so, we've actually transitioned from a high-level Greater Rift build to a speed farming build. So next up, I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like going through the Rift at high speeds. Alright, so let's open up a Rift here and get this going. Whereas in Greater Rifts, you're aiming to kind of go the slow and steady route and keep up your Wrath of the Berserker. Here, we're just going to save that and just spin to win all the way through it. Call the Ancients are still going to help because they still give us Fury Regeneration. Just Whirlwind right away to keep up the Taiguk. And it's really a very simple playstyle. You're just going to activate your Battle Rage and pretty much just go to town. As you can see, we have a lot of AoE damage. We just got to go through things really quickly. You can constantly keep Sprint up because of all the Fury Generation that we have. And here's an Elite pack. Let's see how long it takes. Champion pack, I should say. There's one pack down. There's another. I am unfortunately getting a little bit of lag on my end just because my computer's old. But even so, you can see how quickly you take everything down. There is no challenge. You don't need to spend any time on any packs. And this is actually really nice. Getting our packs. All you have to do is just keep up your buffs because those will help. Obviously, your Battle Rage and your Shout. And man, you can see it. You don't need to really take any time to even make sure that you're killing things. Just go right through them. With the packs, obviously, those, might take a second or two. But that is pretty much about it. You just Whirlwind right through them. Just keep your Sprint up when you're using the damage rune, which I am. And that's why I like it, is it just does add that little bit of extra damage. And you can see it. It's really very easy. I have 3 packs here right now. They do have a stun, which is kind of lame. But that's okay, because they're not going to be around for very long to use it very much. So yeah, 3 packs here right now. Actually with fairly high health pools. And you can see how quickly you tear through it. Now, again, I'm not saying this is the single fastest way to do Rifts, because it's not. What it is, however, is still extremely fast. And without needing to worry about going out and getting a bunch of gear and using, all sorts of different gems that you probably haven't even leveled up. And here's a Rift Guardian already. And you'll see, I didn't even hit the channeling pylon because I want you to see this exactly. Now we can activate Wrath of the Berserker. Just get our damage bonus. And yeah, there's a Rift Guardian, and he's done. So that's it. That is the beauty of the build. You need to change almost nothing. Change very few things, and we changed from a slow and steady Greater Rift farming build to an incredibly fast T6 Rift farming build. And the fantastic part about this is that, as I said, you're doing it to farm quick blood shards, and obviously that was very quick. The other way to farm blood shards is obviously in Greater Rifts, in lower level Greater Rifts, and this build can actually do those fairly efficiently as well. Last night I was actually testing, and I haven't finished my testing yet, but I did Greater Rift 36 in, I believe it was about 5.5 minutes. I believe, which is not, the fastest possible it can be done. But the fact that this build, which has sacrificed all of its toughness, because we switched out the diamonds for rubies, we switched out the amethyst and the helm for a ruby, we switched out the esoteric alteration gem for the wreath of lightning gem, we switched out all of these things, and I don't even have ancient weapons. Like, these weapons are okay, they're not amazingly well rolled. And even so, I was still able to tear through Greater Rift 36, which is not a super high-level Greater Rift. I'm not saying it is. But it's higher than you might think a pure damage build can go, and one that's really just designed for speed farming. So you can get a fair number of blood shards and legendary/set drops from even mid-30s or so Greater Rifts very easily with just this build. I'm actually going to do some testing later on to see how high it can go. I might upload another video to see, or to show rather, exactly what you can do in mid to high 30s, even just using this build. Haven't decided yet, but we'll see how that goes. But that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. This is probably the easiest way that I have found to transition from a greater Rift build to a speed farming build, and I found it to be surprisingly effective given how few changes you have to make. So that's really it. Hope you enjoyed.